I want you to think about energy for a moment, not the kind of energy you get from a strong cup of coffee, but the deep, cellular energy that powers literally everything your body does, every heartbeat, every thought, every step you take. And I want you to ask yourself something honest. Does that energy feel different than it did 20 years ago? For most people watching this video, the answer is yes, and for a long time, the explanation we were given was simple, almost dismissive. That's just aging. But here's what most people have never been told, and it's something that has quietly reshaped how scientists understand aging at its deepest level. Deep inside nearly every cell in your body are tiny structures called mitochondria, and the way they function, the way they're maintained, and the way they respond to what you eat may have far more influence over how you feel day to day than most of us were ever taught. I'm not going to tell you that food can reverse aging, because no food can do that, and anyone who promises you that isn't being honest with you. But what I'm going to tell you is genuinely exciting, and it's backed by real science. There are specific foods that research has shown can support the health and function of these cellular powerhouses, and the difference that can make in how you feel may surprise you. Stay with me. My name is Dr. James Carter, and for over 3 decades I've worked in integrative medicine. And if there's one conversation that comes up more than almost any other, with patients in their 60s, 70s and beyond, it's about energy. Not the kind you can fake with caffeine or willpower, but the kind that determines whether you feel like getting up and doing something, or whether everything feels like it takes more effort than it used to. And what I've learned, both from the research and from sitting with thousands of patients, is that this feeling isn't imaginary, and it isn't something you simply have to accept. There's real biology behind it, and real biology means there are real evidence-based things we can do about it. Let's talk about mitochondria, because I think once you understand what these structures actually do, everything else in this video will click into place. Mitochondria are often called the powerhouses of your cells, and that's not just a catchy phrase. It's literally what they do. They take the nutrients from the food you eat and convert them into a molecule called ATP, which is essentially the energy currency that every process in your body runs on. Your heart beating, your muscles contracting, your brain forming thoughts, all of it requires ATP, and all of that ATP comes from your mitochondria. Here's where the aging research becomes so relevant. Studies published in journals including Nature Aging and Cell Metabolism have documented that mitochondrial function tends to decline with age. Mitochondria can become less efficient, and they can also become a source of something called oxidative stress, essentially byproducts of energy production that, when they accumulate faster than your body can clear them, contribute to cellular damage and the kind of low-grade inflammation we've discussed in other videos. But here's the part of the research that I find genuinely hopeful. Mitochondria aren't static. Your body has the ability to create new mitochondria through a process called mitochondrial biogenesis, and it also has clean-up mechanisms, including that autophagy process we've talked about before, that can identify and remove damaged mitochondria, making room for healthier ones. Research has shown that certain nutrients and dietary patterns can support both of these processes, helping to encourage the creation of new, efficient mitochondria, while supporting your body's ability to clear out the damaged ones. This is what researchers mean when they talk about supporting mitochondrial health, not reversing time, but supporting the systems that are still very much active and responsive inside you right now. So let's talk about the 5 foods. And I want to walk through each one carefully, because understanding the mechanism behind each one is what makes this information actually useful, rather than just another list to forget about by tomorrow. The first food is fatty fish, specifically fish rich in omega-3 fatty acids like salmon, sardines, and mackerel. Here's the mechanism. Omega-3 fatty acids, particularly DHA, become incorporated directly into the membranes of your cells, including mitochondrial membranes. Research published in the Journal of Lipid Research has found that omega-3 fatty acids can influence mitochondrial membrane composition in ways that are associated with improved mitochondrial efficiency and reduced oxidative stress markers. There's also research connecting omega-3 intake to something called mitochondrial biogenesis. Studies in journals including the FASEB journal have shown that omega-3s can activate a pathway involving a protein called PGC1-alpha, which is essentially a master regulator that signals your cells to produce more mitochondria. 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish per week is the amount most commonly associated with these benefits in the research. The second food is walnuts. And I know walnuts might seem like an unusual addition to a list about mitochondria, but the research here is genuinely compelling. Walnuts are one of the richest plant sources of both omega-3 fatty acids and a compound called ellagic acid, which gets converted by gut bacteria into compounds called urolithins. Research published in Nature Metabolism has identified urolithins as having a direct effect on mitophagy, the specific process by which damaged mitochondria are identified and cleared out. A study involving older adults found that urolithin A supplementation was associated with improvements in muscle endurance, and researchers connected this to improved mitochondrial function. While most of this research has used concentrated urolithin extracts rather than walnuts alone, walnuts represent one of the most accessible dietary sources of the precursor compounds, and a small handful, about an ounce, daily is the amount most commonly studied. I want to tell you about a man I'll call Gerald. Gerald is 70 years old, a retired accountant from Colorado, and when Gerald first came to see me, he described something that I think will resonate with a lot of you. He said, "I'm not sick. My doctor says my blood work looks fine, but I feel like I'm running on 70%, and I don't know where the other 30% went." Gerald wasn't dealing with a diagnosis. He was dealing with that quiet, persistent sense of diminished capacity that so many people experience and just learn to live with. We talked about his diet, and Gerald, like many people, was eating very little fish and almost no nuts at all. We incorporated salmon twice a week and a small daily serving of walnuts, alongside some other adjustments to his routine. Gerald told me that after about 2 months, he noticed something he described as subtle but real. Wow, maggots. He said his afternoon energy dip, the one that used to send him to the recliner by 3 o'clock, had become less pronounced. He said, "I'm not bouncing off the walls, but I'm not disappearing into the couch every afternoon either, and that's huge for me." Gerald's story is a good example of what this kind of support often looks like. Not a dramatic transformation, but a meaningful shift in how someone experiences their own day. The third food is dark leafy greens, spinach, kale, Swiss chard, and the mechanism here involves something called nitrates. When you consume dietary nitrates from leafy greens, your body converts them into nitric oxide, which plays a role in blood vessel function and oxygen delivery throughout your body, including to your muscles and organs where mitochondria are doing their work. Research published in journals including Free Radical Biology and Medicine has found that dietary nitrates can improve mitochondrial efficiency, essentially helping mitochondria produce more energy using less oxygen, a measure researchers call mitochondrial efficiency or coupling efficiency. Studies involving older adults have found associations between higher nitrate intake from vegetables and improved exercise performance and muscle function, which researchers have linked back to these mitochondrial effects. Before we go further, I want to take a moment to connect with you directly, because this conversation matters to me, and I know it matters to you too. If you're watching this video, scroll down and tell me your age and the one thing that's been on your mind lately when it comes to your energy, your health, or how you've been feeling day to day. I read every single comment, and they genuinely shape what I create for this community. And if this video has given you something valuable so far, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Because the fifth food on this list, the one I'm going to share at the end, is something that almost nobody connects to mitochondrial health, and once you understand the research behind it, I think you'll feel the same surprise I did when I first came across it. Stay with me, because we're just getting to the most interesting part. The fourth food is berries, and specifically I want to talk about the polyphenols found in berries like blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries. We've talked about anthocyanins in other videos in the context of inflammation, but there's a separate body of research specifically connecting these compounds to mitochondrial health. Studies published in journals, including the Journals of Gerontology, have found that polyphenols from berries can activate that same PGC1-alpha pathway we discussed earlier, supporting mitochondrial biogenesis, while also providing antioxidant support that helps manage the oxidative stress that mitochondria naturally produce as a byproduct of energy generation. One study involving older adults found that 12 weeks of daily berry consumption was associated with measurable improvements in markers of oxidative stress, alongside self-reported improvements in fatigue levels. I want to tell you about a woman I'll call Marjorie. Marjorie is 73 years old, a retired church organist, and Marjorie's story involves something a little different. She'd been dealing with what her doctor described as age-related muscle weakness, the kind of gradual decline in strength that makes everyday tasks like carrying groceries or getting up from a low chair feel noticeably harder than they used to. Marjorie wasn't looking to become an athlete. She told me directly, "I just want to be able to play for the Sunday service without my arms feeling like they're going to give out halfway through." We incorporated a daily serving of mixed berries alongside the other foods we've discussed, as part of an overall approach that also included some gentle strength exercises her physical therapist recommended. Over about 3 months, Marjorie noticed that the fatigue she used to feel during longer pieces had genuinely improved. She told me, "I played through the entire service last Sunday without that burning feeling in my arms, and I actually thought about it afterward. I'd forgotten what that used to feel like." Marjorie's story illustrates something important. These changes don't happen in isolation, but as part of a thoughtful, comprehensive approach, they can contribute to real, felt differences in daily life. And now, the fifth food, the one I promised you, and I genuinely believe this is the most underappreciated piece of this entire puzzle. It's olive oil, specifically extra virgin olive oil, and specifically because of a compound it contains called oleocanthal. Here's why this matters so much and why I think it's so overlooked. Most people think of olive oil simply as a healthy fat, lumped in with other oils as a slightly better choice. But oleocanthal has a genuinely unique mechanism. Research published in journals including Molecular Nutrition and Food Research has found that oleocanthal has anti-inflammatory properties. The Mitophagy researchers have compared, in terms of certain mechanisms, to compounds found in some anti-inflammatory medications. Though I want to be clear, this doesn't mean olive oil is a substitute for medication, and you should never adjust any medication without your doctor's guidance. What makes oleocanthal particularly relevant to mitochondrial health is research suggesting it may help protect mitochondrial membranes from oxidative damage, essentially helping to preserve the integrity of these structures over time. The secret here isn't just use olive oil, it's specifically about using high-quality, fresh extra virgin olive oil, because oleocanthal content degrades significantly with age and exposure to light and heat, similar to what we discussed about green tea in another video. Research has found that olive oil stored properly, in dark glass bottles away from heat, and used within a few months of opening, retains significantly more oleocanthal than oil that's been sitting in a clear bottle on a sunny counter for a year. This is the kind of detail that almost nobody talks about, and it could be the difference between olive oil that's mostly just a cooking fat, and olive oil that's actually delivering the compounds the research has studied. I want to share one final story before we close. I want to tell you about a man I'll call Theodore, who is 77 years old, a retired carpenter. Theodore's story is one that stayed with me, because it wasn't really about any single measurement. It was about something he said to me during one of our conversations. Theodore had incorporated all 5 of the foods we've discussed today gradually over about 6 months, alongside his existing healthy habits and his regular medical care. He told me, "I'm not trying to turn back the clock. I know how old I am, and I'm proud of every year of it." But he said something else that I think captures exactly what this entire video is really about. He said, "I just want enough energy to finish the projects I start. I used to start things in the garage and lose steam halfway through, and it bothered me more than I let on." 6 months later, Theodore told me he'd finished building a bookshelf for his granddaughter. Start to finish, in a single weekend, something he said he wouldn't have attempted a year earlier. He said, "It's not about being young again, it's about finishing what I start. That's enough for me." As we come to the end of this video, I want to leave you with this. The cells in your body, including the mitochondria inside them, are not relics of who you used to be. They are active, responsive, working systems, right now, today, capable of responding to the choices you make. We can't reverse the calendar, and I'd never tell you that we can. But the research is clear that the systems inside your body that generate the energy you feel every day are not simply on a one-way path of decline that you have no influence over. Small, consistent, evidence-based choices, the foods we eat, how we store them, how thoughtfully we approach our daily habits, these things matter, and they matter more than most people are ever told. You're not too old for your body to respond to good care. You're not behind, and you haven't missed some window of opportunity that's now closed. Every day is an opportunity to give your cells what they need to keep doing the remarkable work they've been doing for your entire life. If this video gave you something useful today, please subscribe and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Leave a comment below with your age and what's been on your mind. I read every single one, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Your body has carried you this far, and it's still listening.